Traffic Safety Commissioner's comments. Commissioner Perez.
Yeah, just one comment. For me, just being here recently or fairly new, in regards to school safety, as we've seen with the lockdown, and also traffic in regards to, I think it was Sergeant Boyce a couple months ago talking about traffic safety and traffic enforcement within the schools. And then also now to see a lot of the public express their concerns in regards to what's going on with the schools, and also with speed and things like that within our community. To me, I'm a little bit concerned, and I think we really do owe it to the public and to the citizens of Carlsbad to kind of put together what's going on out there and kind of seeing what's going on. And for me, I think it's something that I feel that to establish some kind of group or a group or some kind of task to kind of work together with these teams on understanding the traffic that's going on within the schools. How can we do that? How can we work with the crosswalk guards and trying to get that information about what's going on? Because I do see a lot of questions about how traffic is so congested within the schools, areas of parking and things like that. So that is my comment, but I just feel that, especially also seeing, with this new changes in the grades of our LOS, it's just to me, it's like what Commissioner Hunter was saying. We are in a triage situation, I feel, but I just really am concerned that the circling. You just do not want to see something that days down the road that we hear or see of something that happens that we could prevent this. So that is my comment.
Okay, it is heard. Commissioner Nikki?
First, I want to thank Chair Gokin for straightening out my motion.
We're working together.
That's right.
That's what she gets paid for.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why she's the chair.
Pennies.
Second, I wanted to, there was a public comment on the Marja Acres, someone claiming that the traffic counts were not done at the correct time of day. I don't know if there's any way that we can figure that out, or is that beyond the scope of the...
I can look into it, and typically we don't collect data on after a holiday or a weekend most of the times, depending on the circumstances. I'm not familiar with that, but I made a note to look into it to see how, usually you do more than one day anyway.
Right, and it should be in the environmental impact report, I would assume.
Right.
And then third, I wanted to thank Mr. Bilsey for his presentation. After all the math he showed, he's probably
We should have got our scientific calculator. Let me know next time.
But I also, independent of the fact that he is finally, after my 8 years of complaining, I see something really good on the horizon there. I haven't been on the commission very long, but I know he was the staff liaison, and everyone sent him an email thanking him for that. I wanted to, maybe we could write a letter of commendation for him for all of his years of service as the traffic liaison.
For sure. Yes. Commissioner Fowler, do you have any comments?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I'm thrilled that we did accomplish something tonight. And I think it is an accomplishment. This is very difficult to balance between wanting to take over, to get in the weeds with the staff versus a true obligation to see the things, especially El Camino Real, at rush hour, and we've got to do something about this, and maybe this will progress that. That's great. One thing out of the original discussion, I think was the first item on the Tamarack. Somebody said when they were talking about the speed indicator, are there license plate readers attached to that? The answer was no. But on the other hand, it sounded like there's a program, and it sounded like it was more complicated than dragging some kind of wheel device and, you know, turning it on at the side of the road. And so this interests me, and I was thinking about, I was sort of thinking about license plate readers, but somebody said it, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's it, absolutely right. I'd like more information on that, if we can have some kind of presentation. You know, I immediately went to the privacy concern, you know, because all of a sudden you could totally see how innocently a vendor sells a product that does things like that and say, oh, by the way, we can connect it to our database in Idaho, and we'll distribute the data to whoever we want, except that's not really what they say. They have a very long terms of use, and you'd have to have an attorney describe that to you. So I'd like to understand a little bit about that, about the way that things like that work with regard to monitoring people's speed, and which I'm all for and all that. But I'd like to understand a little bit more about the implications of that. And
I will look into it.
okay, and then in my territory on College Boulevard at Lake and now it escapes me. It's on the other side of Lake. Marin Road, right. They've done some restriping, and I'm wondering whether that's actually in Carlsbad. But if you think of south of Lake on College, they've restriped to produce a right-hand turn lane. And it was an awkward situation before, and I'd like to understand a little bit about how that worked and the decision to do that restriping, because there's some ambiguity there as well. And part of it's the striping on the other side, which I'm pretty sure is Oceanside.
No, that is Oceanside.
Yeah, right, but the right-hand lane restriping, I'm not sure whether, if that's not in Carlsbad,
I
then
think,
just tell me.
yeah, Lake and Maroon and College, that's Oceanside.
That's
Yeah.
that's
If
what I
you
sort of
drive, you
thought.
see city limits way up on the.
Right, okay, all right, so I'd like to understand how that, why, you know, what the choices were, and I'm sure there's thought that was put into it.
You might have to contact Oceanside for
It's
that,
Oceanside.
because they have no idea.
Oh, wait, so you're saying south of Lake is Oceanside?
Yes.
About a quarter mile.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right, okay.
the limit is like all
That's
the way up to,
Oceanside.
is it that Tamarack was the first?
Tamarack.
The
Halfway
first
to
line.
Tamarack.
It's,
It's
Yeah.
between Tamarack
About
and
halfway.
Lake,
Lakes.
but it's past that first place that goes
The
off to
Tamarack
the,
Elementary School is, that's where the county, or the city boundary is.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like-
right, that's where we put
with the barricades.
the barricades, are.
Yeah.
Of course,
Okay, Commissioner
Thank you.
Pensi.
Okay, thank you.
Could I
Do you have any-
just
yes,
jump in one
please.
second? So that part of Lake is a special kind of area right now, because once you go down College and you pass, I think Tamarack North, that becomes Oceanside, right, going down College. And then you come up to Marin and Lake. But when you go west on Marin, and you pass where the Walmart and the Albertsons is, that becomes Carlsbad. That's the preserve.
Yeah.
And then the other area around that, there's the new bridge, I forgot what it's called, El Salto Flat, and then you hit Haymont. And that's part of Carlsbad. But then it shifts out into Oceanside once you hit the Nissan dealership. So that's a great point that you made, and I think there's some considerations in regards to that lonely little island of Carlsbad in that northeast corner, where there's a lot of, I would say, confusion in regards to traffic, in regards to, on, I believe, Haymart, where there's a certain area where you can park overnight maybe, or at 2, after 2 in the morning you can't park there. But then also once you pass into Carlsbad city limits on Haymar, I think it's a 200 or extended 200 feet. Trucks can't park there or anything like that. But when you go there, it just seems like there's no lane stripping or anything.
Well, that part of Kmart is a standard Carlsbad Street, so it is no overnight parking on large vehicles, but other than that, you have a 72-hour parking for a non-large vehicle.
Yeah.
But do we really get hung up on the large vehicles up there? Usually it's some truckers or something like that, we give them a day or two and tell them.
Yeah, I just think the one thing that we just have to be considerate on is that in that area there now, there is trucks there that are.
Occasionally you'll get some big trucks that'll park overnight or something there. Usually doesn't bug people, so we'll go check it out, and they're there for more than a couple of days.
But it's a very interesting island.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's,
Commissioner Bencio, do you have any comments?
I just want to talk about safe routes to school.
Me
Talked
too.
about that a lot
Me
tonight.
too.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's on my list.
Okay, good. All right. Just to lead off on that, the city of Oceanside recently got a $300,000 grant to do safe routes to school. And they're just getting started on that. And so they're going to each one of the schools in the morning and just taking pictures and looking at what's going on. And it isn't any different in Oceanside than it is here. There's complete chaos at every school. And the parents drive their kids to school because they're afraid of either stranger danger or they're afraid of the vehicles running into their kids. And so it seems that at some point we really have to get pretty aggressive with traffic calming to get the speeds down so low that people will walk with their kids or, you know, let their kids ride their bikes to school so that we reduce the volume of traffic, which is going to be part of the vehicle miles traveled that we're going to have to get into later. So, you know, if you just ask people what they want, they're just going to tell you they want to be able to drive anywhere they want as fast as they want and be able to make left turns whenever they want to make them. But, you know, in reality, we just can't continue to do that. It's unsustainable, and we have to get to the point where the kids can get to school under their own power. There's so many advantages to that, and we just got to start somewhere to make that happen. And I don't see any better place to start than at that intersection with Tamarack and Valley. It serves 3 schools, a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school. And I think Carlsbad should start there. We've had now 2 meetings within the last 6 months where people have come and told us it's a disaster. And people are speeding, and they're, you know, and we're not to the point where what happens in Europe or even Australia, where they put up cameras and they send people tickets in the mail when they speed. We'll never be able to get that past the public, but we can at least put in traffic calming. And as John has told us, we had a presentation before you guys got on the committee, that traffic calming has to include either horizontal or vertical displacement. Stop signs and traffic lights are not traffic calming. They only assign rights of way. And so for us to have gone past that meeting in November and simply decide whether or not to put in a stop sign is just totally wrong. I mean, we have to do better than that. And so it just reemphasizes the recommendation we made tonight to implement traffic calming. That's what is being asked for.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Hunter.
Bill, were you looking for license plate reader information type stuff? Was that
Well, everybody's seen the, you know, flashing speed indicator everywhere, but they're usually on wheels and they're put there and somehow they get power and it works. And it doesn't seem like, although you could not tell from that, it doesn't seem like there's no connectivity. But it seems like what was mentioned today was, well, there's this plan, and we have to go through a process where we get that, and that seems to me to be quite a bit more complicated than towing this mobile thing that gets towed around, I suppose. And I just want to know, do you really need planning for this? And is it something else other than this thing you drag around, or what are the and because the immediate question is, oh, well, okay, so this is a policy, it's going to require resources and things like this. Is there more to it than that? And that's all.
Because they have portable ones they can throw up on a pole real quick. Okay, which
You
they,
mean license plate readers?
no license plate. Well, license plate readers, we had to have Lieutenant Calderwood come in and talk about license plate readers.
Right, right.
Or you and I can talk afterwards.
Sure.
But, for I was just trying to figure it out whether to get Lieutenant Calderwood to talk about license plate readers, but I think you're talking about the speed indicator deals. And the police department and these guys have quickie ones they can throw up there.
Right.
And then the ones John was talking about are more permanent ones, they're gonna be there forever.
Yes.
So that's a capital project, it's not a tow deal.
Right,
so
and that's what I'm getting at,
yeah, so
is
that's
that somebody's selling them this, and they say, yes, but one of the features is that when the future, when we mail out tickets to everybody who's speeding, will love us, you know, and it'll come through the back door, and the public will know nothing about it. Of course, they would never do anything like that.
License plate readers are great, but they're very specific, and lots of rules that go on in them, so, anyway, that was there, and I just dropped my, the other thought that I was gonna throw out, so, I was gonna not offer to you guys, but to say, you know, if you guys wanna go out and see what's really going on theirs, you could get a ride-along, particularly with the traffic department, with the police department, like with Sergeant Boyce and things like that, and we could set something up through whatever channel is there, but depending on the day, it's a pretty interesting education on what's going on. So just a thought to help with the education. We're talking education tonight, so that's about it. Melrose PR. Well, we'll leave that alone.
We had plenty for one night. Vice Chair, do you have any comments?
First of all, I want to thank Doug for hanging in there with us and our layman type questions to a very complicated problem. So thank you for all your information. It helps. And along with everybody else who's agreed, I understand the frustrations of the staff because they have to abide by the references and the documents that are called for, but I also understand the parents and the kids and their safety. And so even though I think together as a staff and the commission, we ought to work at saying, okay, it doesn't qualify for X, but could you look for alternatives in your report to saying, okay, we can't do X because of document so-and-so says it doesn't do, but to give to these, help these people because it's been a long time problem. Can we give something, an alternative, like speed humps or that's just one, but that's my comment.
And I wasn't here for the presentation, so I cannot comment on that. But talking about safe routes to school, that is a program, you're aware, right? That is a program, and California gives money for that, like you mentioned. Is Carlsbad, if any of you is aware, does Craig have any plan, or is Carlsbad has any plan on implementing safe routes to school anytime soon? And because that is between, that's not just the city, right? It's also the school district, which I'm going to go to talk to next about it. How can we work together to make, pretty much to implement the safe routes to school at the best that we can for the city, and to make more organized traffic? That's another thing that I would like to talk to you to you have some ideas of how we can maybe organize the traffic, because that's why parents are, at that intersection is not necessarily unsafe, because we don't have any data saying there were accidents, like, that's why they can't put stop signs. The frustrated parents, because the visibility is not clear, I get comments all the time, I can take a left, the cross guard comes in front of me and I have to watch for this and I have to watch for that, so I'm thinking of different ways how we can fix that, but it's more of the chaos at the schools, right? So if somehow we can organize it, maybe make it a one-way on Valley, that from town, right, they just turn right and then they're forced to go around the block instead of making a U-turn right on Valley and coming back in. More organized way of dropping off and picking up times. And I'm gonna let you talk.
So again, maybe sort of jumping in the literature a little bit. It's not on the agenda, none of that. But I would like to maybe just describe very briefly the whole Safe Routes to School from staff's perspective at this point. It is a funding program. There's actually a federal and a state version of a Safe Routes to School program. And at this point, it involves collaboration with school districts and essentially participating in making requests for funding. And we have a number of school districts here in the city of Carlsbad. I think it's 4 separate school districts within the city boundaries. And our most recent work on that is related to the development of the Sustainable Mobility Plan. So essentially at this point, we do not have a formal Safe Routes to School program here at the city of Carlsbad that we're implementing. And we see that as a shortcoming. And as part of the Sustainable Mobility Plan development, we are intending to establish Safe Routes to School programs. We have a stakeholder working group that's working with staff and the consultants on that project, and it includes, I believe, the superintendent of the Carlsbad Unified School District, and so we are moving in that direction. In the absence of a program, we do reach out and we do coordinate with the various school sites. It's typically site by site based on a need to implement modifications and refinements to the way they operate their on-site sort of school drop-off and pickup scenarios. And the one that I'm most familiar with, I'm going to get the school wrong, but it's the school, it's either La Costa Heights or La Costa Meadows. I think it's La Costa Meadows. It's the one up at the top off of El Fuerte, yes. So that school, they had an issue a few years ago with parents going into a private street that they weren't supposed to be going into. And so we were able to make some modifications to a signal to allow a U-turn rather than allow a left turn, or not allow a U-turn and force them to make a left turn. So we do things like that. We are working with school sites on an as-needed basis. And I'm not really, it's sort of funny because it happens at the beginning of the school year every year, right? Because that's when the new parents show up and they come in and they just start doing wacky things out there, and we get calls and we'll go out and we'll coordinate with them. So that's the extent of our coordination to date. Well, maybe not the extent, but that's an example of our coordination to date. It's not Safe Routes to School, but that's where we're headed with the adoption of the SMP.
Is it possible to have a presentation on Safe Routes to School? Make a motion?
Sure. Yeah, and I think, and Craig is probably the most current on that. And like I said, with his work on the SMP, he could fill you in on that. So sure.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
Let's see.
I'll make a motion.
I-
That we have a presentation on that Safe Routes to School.
Okay. Do we have any commissioner comments? I think
I-
Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, to me, this is a kind of a big one. I feel that, I agree with the motion. I just feel that maybe we could do, I think the committee's going to try, and it's going to have to help me with this. I feel that we can do a little bit more, like what Chairwoman was mentioning about understanding like the routes within our schools, and also the safe routes to schools. So for me, a motion to understand the safe routes would be great, but I think a motion to understand how certain schools like Valley, Hope, Costa Meadows, to kind of incorporate working with the police to understand the traffic routes, to work with the city on understanding the codes on if we can do like a one-way or things like that. So I don't know if this is like more of a working group or something like that, but this is something that I feel that, you know, a motion to, what's the term, to further evaluate a school or a district or something like that, so.
So I feel again, since it's something that we just threw out there on the staff, and it's perfect timing for us because summer comes, I believe that we should do a motion to have them present the safe routes to school and what they have been doing so far. And then based on that, we have 2 months that we can work on it and see what we can accomplish with staff as what's the next step, what is the best. Because we can't just throw up like a blank thing, oh, we just want this, right? We have to become more educated. Literally Saturday at my PTA training, I found out about this and I thought it totally makes sense. So that's my suggestion. If you guys want to change the motion, go ahead.
So
Commissioner Mickey.
in the work plan that I proposed a few months ago, one of the items was safe routes to school. And what I was proposing there is in our work plan, we include staff developing an inventory, basically an inventory of the status of each of the schools and trying to prioritize which ones are the highest. So again, we really need to get this work plan done, and that needs to be one of the items on it, and all the others too. Let's just get it done.
Are we going with the motion on the floor or we're making a motion?
The motion's there, it's been
So
seconded.
it's information.
Yes, at this point, yes. It's information only. We're ready to vote. Case noted, passed unanimously. Any other comments before we adjourn? Yes, please. Comments? Commissioner Pencio.
Yeah, last month, we had a member of the public come and talk about the chicanes and the rules associated with Class 2 bike lanes. And in the interim, she sent an email to the city staff, which provided the exact location of the requirement not to have a Class 2 bike lane with a solid barrier to the left of that lane. That's in the MUTCD, and it is written as a shall not. So I just wanted to reemphasize the fact that we need to have training so that we understand where you can use Class 2s and where they need to be something else, like a Class 4 or a shoulder or something that, the Class 2s are mandatory. And that would be one of the things that would show up on when we have this training. You must stay in a Class 2 bike lane unless you're going to turn left or you're avoiding debris or things like that. So to have this Class 2 bike lane go directly into something that is not allowed in the MUTCD is, well, it's not allowed. So we have to resolve that. The simplest way would simply be to dash it so you can escape from it before you get to the chicane.
Noted, and John and I had briefly discussed it, but then I was out of the office and we did not follow up, but I will follow up with that, because I have an issue with those Class 2. There are some other language in vehicle code that also interferes with the entire, in the state of California, for instance, you can park bike lane, and I have a big issue with that, but that's a bigger animal to attend at this point. But
Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to adjourn at 8:05? time to go home.
Yeah.